Good morning, all highly sensitive heroes, all edge walkers, all soul workers, all destiny weavers. Hello, my name is Maggie Rose Cunningham. I am your hostess for Middle Earth readings, which comes to you weekly. Today is actually a bumper pack because I'm away next week, so I'm going to be covering the planetary movements for this week and next week. As normal, I'm going to be here for those of you who are joining me live to provide you with whatever insights come through for your rune of the week. Just a quick reminder that we are doing just one rune, so if you share two, I'm being very strict with myself now, I'm just going to stick with the first one that you share. Lovely to see all of you. It is climbing in terms of heat here in the UK at present. I know that in Europe it's already incredibly hot. And we have this week Balder's Hall. Balder, the god of light, is coming into ascendancy at the moment. His hall is called Breithablik, and so he's sort of opening our week, I suppose. And he was chatting with me quite quickly, about what do we want to say, what do we want to say to sort of help people with their destiny weaving and their runes this week. And a question that sometimes enters my head, and I don't have the answer to it, but sometimes I go and ask, was Balder is known, the legend that is the most well known about him is that he's dead, essentially, and he's a god of light. He is killed. There's a huge prophecy that he's going to be killed, and he ends up in the underworld. And yet one of the 12 halls, and these were channeled, created, found by Freya Aswyn, by the rune mistress Freya Aswyn, is dedicated to Balder, and he has his own hall, and then that's obviously within the literature, is he has his own hall. So I was asking him about this, and what's come through very strongly as the theme that he wants to share with us is that Balder, part of his doom, his destiny, that which he is there, his purpose, is to be down within the underworld during the great battle of Ragnarok, so that he can rise and he will be one of the gods, potentially the lead god. We don't it's not clear, but he's definitely going to re-emerge out after the final battle. So he needs to not be present in order to be present later, so he's like, I'm biding my time. But what he was talking about is, he was saying, his hall, you can still go and do work with him. You can journey to the hall, you can seek his advice and his guidance there, and he's still present. And I don't know whether that's because gods can be present in more place than one, or because time works slightly different for them, and how that goes. But what he was talking about, he was saying that we are that memory is a thing. Memory is one of our gateways through time, from the past, that which was, into the present, that which is, into the future, that which must be. That's the Nornir, by the way. All Verdandian school hold each of those spaces. And the gods certainly have a different relationship with time than we do, and it's perfectly possible to go and speak with Balder, who was, the Lord of Breithablik, even though we know he's in the underworld. But from a human perspective, he was saying that memory can trap us. We can become trapped by memory. And this was a theme that opened with Tyr's Chariot in Largus last week. This idea of how do we use the legends and the myths that are of the past? Do they inspire us to do great deeds ourselves, or do they trap us in a sense of we can never achieve the same? A sense of despair or lack of hope, or that the golden age is past, and the danger of that. And Balder is continuing that theme. You often find that when you have a weighting of the planets and what's happening, and they bring together the themes. Is he's saying when we are trapped in memory until rebirth, and that's why for him he is able to move through the realm of memory, because he hasn't been reborn yet. But for us, we need to continue that process of rebirth, and that happens throughout our lives, and it happens through initiatory experiences. Unfortunately, there are not as many, certainly not as many planned or structured for us, not as many ways to receive initiation as there used to be, but that we can do that through the course of our lives. And it's that recognition of, have I become bound within this memory to an extent that I am either I'm angry, or I'm afraid because something happened in the past and I worry that it's going to happen again, or that was so amazing that I never think that I can have the same thing again. It can be positive or negative. And it's that sense of needing to move into freedom. And what he says is that there are two processes that are needed. Maybe there are more, but he wanted to emphasize that these two, which is a process of grief. We must go through a process of grief, a physical process of grief. And I work with a lot of clients on doing that, creating, ritual, often like mini rituals. They don't have to be massive, but are mini rituals of grief for that which is past, and then the celebration. That sense of, there are many people now who, I say many people. I think for me it's a beautiful idea of doing when a loved one dies, that you do the grieving process, and then you do the celebration of life a year on, because we're not in the right space to do that, in the year. And that idea of mourning is less ritualized in our society than it used to be. We sort of want to be, it's there's the funeral and then that's all done and let's move on as quickly as possible, and it's a private, they're grieving still, but it's not a ritual process. And it's almost that sense of him saying, let's bring that back. And for some things it might be small, and for some things it might be big and take longer. But how do you create those rituals of grief first, of releasing and letting go, and then of celebration, that and honouring. And then secondly, he talks about reflection and intention, which is more of the learning piece. And this is the evolution, so obviously, Odin very invested in that. Reflecting on what was, what have I learned, what do I now know about myself that I didn't know before, what are the lessons that I've received, and therefore what are the intentions that I then hold moving forward. And that helps us to move more and more strongly into purpose, into our sense of purpose. Not necessarily that each of the moments of our lives, maybe some of them are there, like predestined to help us to claim our purpose more strongly, but that the process of grief and celebration and of reflection and intention is in itself something that brings us more strongly into purpose. So it's this is where the sort of co-creation, the weaving with destiny comes into play. It's not, here is stuff that's going to happen and it's going to shape and mould you and you have no say over it at all. It's actually a very active partnership. So Boulder wanted to bring that through for us. So his hall is opening on the 22nd of this month. We've also got Frigg's Chariot. Let's start with Odin's Chariot so I don't confuse you. So we've got Odin's Chariot moving into Thurisaz, and that's a really powerful and potent partnership. And again, Thurisaz is it's a thorny rune, and Odin being the god of sort of consciousness, and the Thurisaz being the rune of the giants. We might think about it as being sort of the primal and the subconscious, and the formal or evolved and the conscious mind. They can often be seen to clash. But what Odin wanted to share with us is, he says, our enemies teach us more than our friends. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And what he was basically saying is that, our friends are often very invested in us. They like us. They want to make us happy. They don't want us to change or evolve. They want us to stay the same because they like us the way that we are. Whereas our enemies don't have that. They're not interested in that. And maybe, perhaps being a little bit flippant with the enemies, but if you think about Loki, for example, so he's like a blood brother to Odin, but he inhabits this very specific role where he's a bit like a court jester, where he gets to say the truth. He says the truth and he's valued for that. Sometimes he just throws stuff out there until he hits the truth, let's be honest. It's not all truthful. But Odin is reminding us that the hardship and the lessons and the things that we that make us go, oh, can often teach us something that we're, maybe I'm not living up. Maybe I see somebody else doing things that I really wish that I could be doing, and I'm a bit like, jealousy can come up because of that. It's actually a teacher. It's teaching you, I want to be doing that too. It's just moving through that. So again, you can see that it's very much this, we're playing with our story through the course of this time. And then Frigg's Chariot is going to move into Feyu. Really lovely combination of sort of Freya energy and Frigg energy. And what they're talking about is, they say, embrace your magic. This isn't in the blurb in the text, but it's sort of like that sense of embrace your magic and not anybody else's, was what I got when I was talking to them about this today, and what was coming through for us to look into. And again, it's that sense of knowing yourself, knowing what you've learned, knowing that that person's truth is not necessarily your truth, and that maybe they are tending to this piece of the puzzle over there, following their own heroic destiny, doing what they're supposed to be doing. And even though I don't like it, I might not understand it, it might be that they are contributing an important piece. My magic, my thing, my talent, my purpose is different. And when I'm trying to please other people, follow the path that they've created, similar to memory, we talk about memory, when I'm trying to emulate the journey of somebody else, of a hero that I've seen in the past, I'm not standing in my truth. So all of these pieces, all of these energies are building at the moment to say, this is what you're being called into much more strongly at this point, is this releasing of what's not yours and stepping more fully into what is yours. Now, because I'm away, those are our planetary movements for this week. Next week we have 2 planetary movements. So we have a new moon in Urus on the 28th, and that's going to be a really great time for, in a way, there's a moment of claiming what you've been doing, purity, that sense of, yes, I'm ready to release the old and I can still see it, but I'm not bound by it. I am free in that sense. Clarity, I have clarity of purpose, and release. I've done that work of letting go, and so the new moon allows us to step into a moment of rebirth. And again, this is always about harnessing what's available to us. It's not saying, this new moon, you will find clarity, purpose, and release. It's saying, if you use this energy and if you go through that process of grief, celebration, of reflection and intention, then this is what is possible, and you can use the energy of the new moon to seal that and to allow yourself to flow with the big current, the uber current of weird, and so that your little current of weird is flowing with it. And then on the 31st, at the end of that week, we have Suna's chariot moving into Thurisaz. So we've had this sense of finding myself, claiming myself. Odin has opened this up to a little bit to us with the Thurisaz energy of sort of saying, the world is always offering us the potential to evolve and to step into greater power. And Odin is saying, look for that. What is the communication that might be coming through? With Odin's chariot being the equivalent of Mercury. What messages might I receive? Suna's chariot is much more about embodiment. So it is embodying that purpose, that strength, that power. And knowing that when we have done the work, we don't come from this place of this Thurisaz-y shell of fear and anger and conditioned behaviour and stuff all inside our bodies because we're too afraid to release it, which Thurisaz can be. It can be deeply uncomfortable energy to be in. We come from a place of, I know who I am. I am committed to my purpose. I am able to draw on that deep, powerful thunder and lightning energy of Thurisaz to supercharge what I am going to be doing moving forward, and to have that presence of focus, harnessing the conscious mind and the subconscious mind together. It's a very, very potent rune, the Thurisaz rune. I'm quite looking forward to it. I don't know if you can tell. I like Thurisaz a lot. It's been a really important spirit teacher for me through the years. For some, it can sit in that bracket of the sort of Hagalaz-y, North-y, this is going to be uncomfortable. And it can, it can be uncomfortable. But it is teaching us how to be deeply, deeply comfortable with ourselves. It's saying, I am the gateway. You need to travel through to find your power on the other side. Whereas the other runes can sometimes work in different ways, and we find the sustenance and the healing and the support or nurture first, and then they say, and now you're going to move into my deeper mysteries, and those might be a bit challenging, but these ones, they come up front. So overall theme is let it go, let it go, let it go. No Maggie, no, apologies. Maybe another time. If anyone fancies any karaoke, I quite fancy doing Frozen karaoke. So that's your planetary movements. The only other thing I wanted to say is I am prepping the Sooner Star Wheel for August at the moment, so we're looking to get that out earlier for those of you who are members of Sooner Star Wheel, so that you have that chance to get the overview of all of the planetary movements for the month ahead, and you can do a bit more planning. Obviously we do week by week here in the group, so look out for that, Sooner Star Wheel people. And if you do not have Sooner Star Wheel, or you do not know what Sooner Star Wheel is, it is essentially a sort of destiny weaving kit that you can use, and we send you like a monthly email with all of your planetary movements ahead of time, and we have a sacred play journal, and we have meditations and other things. It goes very nicely with Middle Earth readings, so that will be there for you for August. Let's see who we've got. We've got lots of lovely comments today with people sharing their birthdays. Susanna saying, oh, 28th is my birthday. Oh, happy birthday, beautiful new moon. I know that Uruz is a really powerful rune for you, so that's going to be a really potent day for you, Suzanne. Just saw that at the end there before I'm scrolling back up to the comments. So let's look at those of you who have shared your runes for the week. Now, totally up to you whether you choose to keep this rune for the 2 weeks, or whether you say, actually, I'm going to go it alone next week and choose my rune, and maybe you could share it in the group and see if anybody else has any thoughts on what your rune of the week might be. I'm going to be doing these readings as if they are for this week, but if you set your intention to say I want it for 2 weeks, that's what that's what they will provide, and that will be fine. Let me see then. Here we've got Chen. Hi Chen, lovely to see you. And you've got Runyo, which is a very light rune in comparison with some of the energies that we've got with the Thurisaz and the Uruz coming through quite strongly. And to my mind, that speaks of freedom. It's that sense of freedom and knowing who you are. It's very associated with Balder, actually, because it's a rune of light, and he is a god of light. And it's talking about treading lightly through life, of having that capacity to almost step out of your body to behind you. There's a book that if I can think of it, I'll share it with you, but I've got a feeling it's not going to come. I think it might be Martha Beck's work, for those of you who might have heard of Martha Beck before. And she talks about stepping out of your body so that you can watch what is happening. Oh, I'm getting this feeling right now. There's this sensation right now. And it's that place of being able to sort of look and feel that lightness, and then obviously coming back into your body again afterwards. But it's always remembering there is a freedom. We have freedom to choose. And it's not freedom to choose. No, it's freedom to choose. It's playful and light and joyful. I was working with a client this morning, and we were investigating the possibility of what would be possible for you if you knew that the plan of the universe, the main plan of the universe, the thing that they were like, there's loads of other stuff that you can get, but this is the thing we want you to get, is your own happiness, your own joy, your own fulfillment, and everything else stemmed from that. Similarly, in lots of work that I've done, I know that people have a very similar thing. In one of many, the women's leadership group that we work with, they talk about, what if the will of the universe and your desire was the same? What would be possible? So it's a useful question to ask yourself. It's that lightening the load, and saying, what if the intention of the universe is for me to claim happiness, and that is the greatest gift that I can give to this incarnation, like this lifetime. Whereas Felicity, you've got Athala, which I always think there's a connection with Athala and Wunyo. There's this sense of relationship. That Wunyo is very much about like relationship to self, relationship to family. There's deep intimate relationships, and then Athala can be more structured, and it's often about relationship to land, ancestors, inheritance, and it can come with more gravitas because of that, more of a sense of I am the caretaker of this legacy, I need to do it in a certain way, or I'm trying to create this and therefore I need to do it in a certain way. And I think the fact that these two runes have come next to each other tells me that it's almost an invitation to say there is a beauty and a connection that's possible, to land and heritage and legacy in honouring the Athala pathway, the pathway of estate and land and inheritance. But equally with that, we can step into much more powerful relationship with that when we treat that with lightness, and when we say, what if the purpose of me doing this ancestral work, or the purpose of me working on what legacy I want to leave, or what honouring I'm doing for others, is to make my soul sing? What if that is the purpose? And to come from that place in doing that, and to say that is one of the ways in which we make our work sacred. People often talk about the difference between the mundane world and the sacred world, but it can be really nice to think about, what would it mean if to make something sacred meant to be fulfilled, like personally fulfilled through the work that you were doing. Esther, you've got Thurisaz point facing downwards. So obviously we've got some oomphy Thurisaz energy coming through with Odin, that sense of our enemies teaching us more than our friends. The fact that it's pointing downwards, I'm getting more of a visceral sensation of like a physical, like a thorn in the earth, or a mineral substance, almost like obsidian, or some like very deep, weighty element that the earth is holding. What's coming to my mind, Esther, and I don't know why, but it is I don't know about the Germanic traditions, actually. It'd be really interesting if anybody does know, but I know that in a lot of traditions people regarded like meteorites and minerals that came from meteorites, and that that were gathered, and people knew this has come from above, as being sacred. I know with Zeus, I know that was the case, and I've always believed that that's the case for Thor. I have a piece of sort of meteoric stone, I should know the name of it, that is shaped like a black Thurisaz rune, very much to do with sort of earth mysteries. Where that's going for you, I'm struggling with, to be honest. I'm just seeing the really like the fiery energy of Thurisaz streaking down from the stars and coming down and embedding itself deep in the earth. I'm wondering if it is a power retrieval process. That's my suspicion. That it might be a call to undertake a power retrieval for yourself, or to ask somebody else to do that for you. And that the Thurisaz is representing that power that is there and buried beneath the earth for you. Marie, you've got the Thala, but it's the Merc stave. So Felicity had it upright. Marie, you've got it downwards, which again is really interesting that you've had it just immediately after Esther with her Thurisaz rune, and that pointing downwards. And again, there is a suggestion to me of is it a reclamation of power? It's certainly talking about memory and power held beneath the earth, but I'm seeing that a juxtaposition. Sorry, I moved then and my screen went really dark. Juxtaposition of, why is it going really dark? That's really odd. Maybe it's the Thala and Thurisaz deep in the earth. Lost my thread of thought entirely with the Athala rune going upside down. It's the juxtaposition between the archaeological finds that are human and that tell us about what our ancestors did and how they lived, and nature, which is constantly sort of eroding that and allowing us to shape and rechange. So I think that there's a strong connection with what Balder's talking about around memory, and it's that maybe opening to the possibility more strongly of saying, I might be learning practices that have been passed down, and I might be receiving teachings, but I need to have at least half of that needs to come from a sort of raw, primal, instinctive place in me that's more nature-based. I think that's what's coming through. It's sort of that remembering that if the Athala rune is pointed downwards, there's a certain amount of composting that needs to go on in order for us to then grow from that. That might not be that clear, Maria. I hope that's helpful, but it's that yes, that sense of don't just repeat, don't think that you have to like repeat an authentic, perfect, knowing everything that another person knew and copying that, and only then can I go on to do my own thing. Instead of saying actually there's a creative process, like an organic process that reignites the flame. Dun, dun. Good morning, Namain. You've got Kina, so we've got some more fire coming through there. Well, I've got the Thurisaz rune and then the Athala rune. We had a bit of fire as well. We've got Kinas now as well. That sort of creative energy, which links beautifully with Thurisaz. It can be a little bit full on. It can bring some emotions coming through. Just watch for anything that you're storing in your body in particular. Anger, fear, anxiety. Just watch for those and do that grief and celebration process. It's sort of because Kinas is a little bit of a transformer, and it's very embodied in the way that it operates. It will clamp on to that Thurisaz energy, so it's really paying attention to that sort of mindfulness there. And then with the Feiyu energy, it's that freedom, that freedom of movement. So that might also be something that's important, is that sense of allowing your body to move, and that's part of the release and rebirth process as well. And the new moon energy seems to be quite powerful with the 28th, so we've got 10 days to go of a greater clarity is what I'm seeing. Is the combination of the Uruz rune and the Kinaz rune are coming together with this much clearer, less weighty sense of moving forward. I think there's healing potential here, is the sense that I'm getting, working first of all with the Thurisaz rune, and just feeling how the Kinaz rune and the Thurisaz rune might combine within the body, and then looking to do some release around that, and then using I'm really seeing that like clear, sparkling, crystalline energy of a new moon Uruz, with the fire, the regenerative new possibilities of Kinaz coming through with that clarity that you have at that point. Erica, sunny greetings. You have Kinaz for the week as well. So I'm going to point you to what I said for Namain. Is there anything else that's coming through for you specifically for Kinaz? I think the only thing I'm seeing is more like the hand of the creator at the forge. And I don't, again, let's see where this takes us. So normally when I see like a smith, when I see Kinaz and I see somebody, you need to be doing that smithing, what I tend to see is very sort of calloused hands that have been working for a long period of time and very practiced. Whereas when I'm seeing what I'm seeing here is like quite soft, childlike hands, and it's that sense of maybe like trying things that you haven't done before, or opening to innocence and the wisdom of not knowing. The wisdom of there's a bit of naivety almost there, or sort of blossoming or blooming, and saying at some point in learning something new, each of us has to have that moment where we approach things as a child, is the best that I can put there. So embracing that new childlike self is what I'm seeing there for you, Erica. Sally Ann says good morning. Diane says good morning. You've got Lagus today. So a lovely flow of Lagus, which offers possibilities for memory clearing. What I would watch for is what I think about as flooding. Some people might call it overwhelm. It's almost that sense of everything coming up, because the Lagus rune doesn't do boundaries very well. It's like, it's going to harness all of that Thurisazzy stuff. Oh yeah, there's lots of gunk there, let's deal with that. And then the Feiyu comes along and it's like, yeah, let's bring all of the amber up from the Baltic Sea and wash it onto the shore, so you've got like treasures everywhere and potential, and you've got Thurisaz going, no, look at this, no, look at this, and you're like, I don't know what to do, it's too much. And Balder is saying, let's go. I don't know why it's just making me do look at this over my glasses now. Let go. I'm just looking in for what, other than let go. it's almost that sense, I think, of which sometimes what we are doing in receiving a lot of stuff that comes through is we're channeling through us purposes, energies, emotions, anxieties, all sorts of things that aren't actually ours. So if you imagine standing on a beach and you've got, I'm literally just seeing, you know, when the tide goes down, and I'm seeing all of this amber, this like delicious like golden amber in the sand, and there are also these black, like literally like sort of thorny, almost like washed up thorns that have been in the sea for a long time, and they're all there, and I'm sort of standing there and going, oh, I don't know what to choose. And it's almost saying, actually, the role here for you is to step back away from that like flotsam and jetsam of the world, and to go to a higher place and light your fire and just enjoy this amazing scene of nature, and to, as far as is possible, work on that basis of saying sometimes it's okay to just be a spectator. We don't have to do anything, fix anything, change anything, take responsibility for anything. We can just be a spectator for a little while. So light your fire, go, look at this miracle of nature. Even if it's, look at this very strange world events, or, you know, look at this, how everything feels choppy and weird and lots of stuff is happening. So it's not your job to fix it. Light your fire, sit by your fire. If somebody comes and they're walking along and they sit down with you for a while and they chat, that's fine. But you don't need to, you know, if they're saying, let's go and pick up some of the amber, or let's go and do this, or let's go and do that, you can say, you do that, that's fine, I'll stay by my fire, is what I'm getting there. It's that, just the pleasure of the sea. You know, sometimes we get that and we just want to sit by it. It's not saying get in, do anything. Lisa, you've got a thala. So we've done a thala. I think we've covered a thala a couple of times now. The only thing I'm getting through more strongly is a sense of security is coming through. I can almost like hear sort of a gate going, you know, of wanting to protect. And I think the question is, are your defences not strong enough already, or is what you've put in place not strong enough already? How much protection needs to be put in place in order to feel safe is the question that's coming through. I'm almost seeing it like there's a drawbridge, and it's like, well, if we just drop the drawbridge, we'd have the water around us. Do we need the big heavy gates as well? I don't know what that's in reference to there, Lisa, so I'm going to leave that with you. Look at what else I've said about Athala as well, because I think that's still relevant, but it's just that additional layer there. Suzanne, morning gorgeous people. So you've got Bacano, it's beautiful rebirth, so lovely working with the Urus full moon. There is a fragility there with the Bacano rune, with Thurisaz next to it. Thurisaz is poking away and Bacano's going, ow, that hurts. You know, it's almost like Bacano has got a built-in bit to receive the Thurisaz rune. I know you know what the shapes are, so you've got the Thurisaz rune here, and Bacano looks like a bee, like a point with two pointy triangles. So the triangles fit together. The Bacano rune receives the Thurisaz rune inside it, and then goes, well, what am I supposed to do with this? No? Riding that and recognising that the Bacano rune has its own natural defences. I think that's the piece that's important here. It reminds me of, I was walking along, I've never seen this before, I was walking along in a glade of birch trees last week, and there was a whole like buzzing wasps next to this birch tree. I'm like, oh, what's going on there? We were looking closely, and then we heard this sound, and then we could see the sap, like the milk of the birch tree, literally came sort of exploding out of the side of the tree and then started running down the tree, and the wasps were, you know, then having a delicious, you know, supper. And there was something very powerful about that for me, about the way that the birch rune, the birch tree and the birch rune offers support and sustenance, and it's a very brave rune. It's the birch tree is the first tree to self-seed after fires. You know, it's saying, oh, I might look as if I'm not particularly fruitful, but you can actually, you know, milk my sap. It makes itself deeply useful, and it takes lots of risks. So it's not a here is my sword on guard type of thing. it's more trickster-like in its in the way that it defends against the Duracell's type energy. So it's not saying defenseless, but it's saying don't try and tackle things head on and be like, yes, I'm going to bring out the warrior. It's bringing out the trickster child, like the fairy child, is going to be the most helpful. And then really harnessing that new moon energy to step, allowing, almost imagining that there's a part of you that, a young part of you that is seeking initiation through the course of this new moon. Recognition, a recognition by tribe. I'm almost seeing like a child in a robe and going in the ceremony, and they come out and they've got a woven cloth that's been created by their tribe to honour a rite of passage. It's almost like this new moon is offering that, an initiation of a young part of you that is ready for that. Perhaps the fairy child, who knows, or it might be a mate of the fairy child who's sort of waiting to emerge. So we shall see. Then we've got Sunita, who's got Runyo. So we did Runyo at the beginning with the lightness, and everything that I said about Boulder as well, that sense of lightness, release, letting go, playing, using things like poetry, dance, play to recognize that we can do that, and we can be just as serious in our work when we bring a spirit of play as when we say, right, this is all going to be hard work, and we're going to sit down at the board table and we're going to decide how this is going to go, and we need lots of papers, or whatever it is, the way the world tends to make decisions. It's recognizing the power and the potency of the Runyo rune in that as a way of being that we tend to compartmentalize and say that's given that we're talking about the child self with Suzanne, that the child self has wisdom that we are not allowing into our work places and into our vocations, and it's almost saying, how can I embody that and allow that through a bit more. Then Ren, you have got Algis, it's the protector rune, like arms raised up to the skies. There is it's bringing to my mind the relationship between Heimdall and Loki with the Thurisaz rune and Heimdall. They don't always get on that well, let's be honest. Heimdall is probably not the most, I'm going to sound mean now, I'm sure he's not the most playful of gods when he's doing his work, when he's like, I'm looking out over all of the world and I'm guarding the bridge. Fairly certain he's more so when he's in his hall and he's like drinking his mead. But he takes his work incredibly seriously, and he disapproves of Loki a little bit, I think. And Loki, anyone who disapproves of him, that is just like a red rag to a bull, I'm going to come and stand on the bridge and annoy you. We had a long period of time where Loki was in retrograde. Was in Algis. And if I remember rightly, it's going to go back into retrograde and go back into Algis for a while. And that was quite uncomfortable, because I think it was, very much Loki just being like, oh, Heimdall's so serious. Ugh. So you might get a clashing of these two energies. And again, I would go back and just look at, is there anything from my story, the story that my family stories, the stories that I take about, this is what's allowed in this playing space, and this is what the way I have to be in my working space. And ask for support to release that from the Algis rune. So say, I would like this to be released in something better, more helpful, more empowering to me, to be brought in its place. But don't just say, please take it away, because you'll want something else in its place, otherwise you'll be all over the place, like playing everywhere, or working really hard when you should be playing. So looking for something better there, and just having a feel into that energy a little bit, and recognizing that help is available. I'm almost seeing it as like birds. You could just visualize the freedom of birds flying, who, when they fly in a flock, and they're all working, because they're all like working how to be in that flock together and work as one. But it is also play, and it's so beautiful too. I shall leave that with you to make of it what you will, Ren, there. And then Jen, you've got Iwaz, so we've got more stability coming in here for you, more rootedness, a little bit of resistance to that Thurisaz rune, a little bit of storing up some energy for the future. So there is a restoration piece going on here of drawing in the Feiyu energy and allowing the Ayahuasca room to hold it for you. Not allowing yourself to be taken off course is what I would say is coming through quite strongly here. Not allowing yourself to be diverted by other people, and maybe taking a broader perspective. And I was talking about reflection and intention, and it might be that for you this is a moment where you might want to go a little bit further back into older stories from the past, or new hopes for the future. And remember that although there might be urgent matters in the moment calling you, you know, the Thurisaz energy going hello, 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 and the Feiyu energy like moving all over the place, the Ayahuasca energy is reminding you that you have a like a purpose that is deeper, is maybe not the word that I'm looking for. It's almost like a vision that you're called to for the future that you need to keep and preserve and defend, and that the Ayahuasca rune is there to help you to defend that. Something that you've seen, something that's important to you. Keep your eye on the horizon, not here on what's right in front of you, is what's coming through there. Trish, you've got a thala also upside down, so I'm going to refer you back to the discussion that we were having about, there's a piece there around power retrieval. There is a piece there around allowing yourself to evolve and be comfortable as you, rather than I'm trying to like honour other people's journeys or paths. And there is a sense for me as well, maybe this comes back to the power retrieval of what I'm feeling is that dryness. You know, when you get twigs and sticks in the forest and they become very dry and then they're very easily set fire to, they don't have that sap, you know, the wetness and the sap inside them anymore. And I think it's about using that intentionally. I'm literally just thinking about the heat at this particular point, you know, that we've got here, in the sense in which, you know, fire can come spontaneously. So for me, it's saying it's conscious. It's doing conscious destiny weaving, which is relevant to all of us, you know, that we need to bring consciousness to our destiny weaving and saying, what do I choose? You know, it's not just about what does the gods tell me or what does Maggie say, you know, I should be doing. It's about what do I choose in this moment based on what's been offered, you know, what do I choose? And I think it's sort of saying there's the potential for, you know, the wildfire to come and like burn away some of the old stuff that you don't need anymore, but it will be more powerful if it's done intentionally, with like a contained fire with your Athala rune, like a sort of hearth fire, rather than it may be happening through dream or through incidents in life coming and like making you question stuff. It's sort of saying if you're able to take more of a ritual approach, again looking at what do I need to grieve for right now, what might I need to celebrate, how can I use that, you know, use my sacred to-do list and those sorts of things to contain that energy and that desire for, it's not destruction, but there is a purging, you know, a burning away of the old to make way for the new that's coming through there. Missed the first minute. Who is the he that's talking about with the book that she read? Thank you. I don't even remember, Sally Ann. Sorry. It feels like ages ago now. If I could remember, I'll try to, but otherwise somebody else can answer the question. Chen, how do you know when it's time to move from mourning to celebration? In my experience, it is sometimes, you know, because you're tired. You're just like, you know, I'm cried out, or I'm at peace. There is a sense in which my body has slowed and relaxed, because I do a lot of work through dance. So I will do get music that is very emotive for me, and move through it and allow the music to move me. And often I will cry then, you know, and let out what needs to come out. Sometimes there's rage. I'm going to do a bit of rage dancing, and it tends to be that then when I come to a place where my system is slowed, then I know that the celebration time has come. But equally, it's worth bearing in mind that there are people who create rituals for themselves, and they simply follow the ritual structure, and they say, this is what I'm going to do in order to do my grieving. I'm going to, you know, write down all the things that I'm grieving for, and then I'm going to sort of give them, you might give them to the fire and say, you know, I offer these to the gods. And when that's complete, you then move on to the celebration. So it can be intuitive, or it can simply be it's the way that you've designed your ritual. Candice, We'll try to rematch the first bit as I was late. I have Kinaz reversed. So we've done Kinaz a couple of times. There's just a sense of not overstretching your energy, not pushing yourself too far, remembering that the fire always needs fuel. And I know it's certainly something that I do. You know, I found when I worked with creative people, deeply creative people, is that they can get very frustrated when they have the period of nothing's coming, forgetting that actually often what you're doing is you are replenishing your fuel, ready for the flame to burn more brightly afterwards. So whereas with, I can't remember who it was now, apologies, it will come to me after. We were talking about like it was Nemain, wasn't it? We were looking at scanning the body and looking at the Kinaz and the Thurisaz energy and how they might be working against each other. Your Kinaz energy is actually more protected. I feel as if it's almost just saying it's a little bit low at the moment. Use the Feiyu rune, and the Uruz rune is going to be really, really powerful. So we're in the half month of Uruz at the moment. I would use that. Maybe a little bit of play. We've been talking about play and letting go, to sort of say, what can I do to really nourish myself, not with the idea of creating anything, just with the idea of what will make me feel really, really good and what will start to refuel me so that the next iteration of what I'm going to create is going to come through. Suzanne, yes, happy birthday, the 28th. Sally Ann, yes, I can share a link to the Destiny Weaving, the Suna's Star Wheel. Jen, good, really need to hear that, I'm pleased. Sally Ann says, can you pick a rune for me? We will see. Excellent, Suzanne has done that for you. So you've got Gibo, which is a rune of balance. It's quite it's an interesting rune because it brings freedom when you lie down. I really love working with the Gibo rune, where I lie down and I make myself into a star shape and I look up at the sky. It can bring a bit of vertigo because we can really relax. So make sure you're in a safe space when you do that. So it brings freedom at the same time, sort of paradoxically, as bringing order and structure, because that's where we make promises, we make social contracts from that place. We offer a gift, and that creates some form of like obligation that comes through at the same time. And it's being able to work with both of those energies. You know, we were talking about, again, that sort of sense of grief and celebration, reflection and intention. For me, it's maybe a subtle shaping of that with the Gibo rune for you, around looking at, reflecting on where you have felt like bound in your life by responsibilities, by promises, and where you have felt a call to freedom, and whether you've honoured that or not, and knowing that that mastery of the Gibo rune comes when you are both able to step into freedom and claim that for yourself, and you're able to consciously honour promises and commitments and make ones that are in alignment with what you want to achieve in the world and with your destiny. So I think it's almost it feels to me as if the Gibo rune through this period of time up to the new moon is saying you already have some mastery of the Gibo rune. It's about acknowledging that, taking time with that, and saying when you do that acknowledging piece, then you're ready for the next level, which is another form of rebirth and ritual in many ways. That we can get not stuck in a memory, we can just get stuck at I'm at this particular level, and until I've recognized where I am, I can't move on again. So I think that's what the Gibo rune is saying. It's saying, actually, you already know me well. What I'd like you to do is to honor that, and then we'll be ready for the next level of working together. Esther says, thank you, Maggie. I've been working on inner power retrieval, so getting therapists put it down was making a lot of sense. Glad that that's the case, and you're going to keep the rune for next week. And that's great. I think that may well be the case with some of you, particularly because of the new moon energy coming. Nemain says, I like the idea of Thurisaz and Kinaz coming together, and looking forward to the crystalline new moon. So am I. Erica says, embracing my childlike self sounds good. Bhavna, hello Bhavna. You've got Manas, so the sovereignty. There are some similarities with the Gibo rune, with that sort of energy of gifting, but there is more of a recognizing the stance that you take to support others in being able to hold that Gibo energy. Yeah, it's really interesting. It came through quite specifically, Barbara. It's almost like that. We were talking about mastery, weren't we? Like the next levels of mastery. And in some ways, Manaz, again, it's at the end of the rune rose. It's in the final 8, and it is about sovereignty. It's very much about knitting together different things. And for me, it's that sense of recognizing and honoring, perhaps doing some grief work if needs be, again, and some celebration work, where you have taken a stand for others. You know, it might have started as a stand for yourself, but it became a stand for others, where you have sought to be of service, and recognizing that every time we seek to act in service, that is part of our sovereign self-calling. Now, for many of us, we become afraid of that sovereign self, and we say, oh no, I don't take responsibility for this. This is needed out in the world and I'm doing it, but I'm not responsible for it. That person wanted this and I'm offering it to them. Or I just saw it and I was just like, I'll give myself to that. That job looks okay. You know, it looks like I could do good in the world here and I won't do much harm, so I'll go there. And we give away our power in that sense. So it's like the service offers us the possibility of sovereignty, and then we go, oh. And for you, it's saying that's not the case. It's saying that you have always sought to step into sovereignty, to take responsibility for your own actions, and to seek to leave where you are better than you found it. And I think that's why this sort of honouring of the journey here, and perhaps honouring what the costs of that might have been for you, and releasing them, and then celebrating what it has brought you, and you could do it for others as well, but it is very much about sovereignty and recognising what we've done for ourselves. Sally Ann, Gibo, we have done that. I'm ahead of the game. Trish says thank you. I was speaking about Balder. Yes, it wasn't a book. I was speaking about the god Balder, and you'll see him on the Instagram feed. And if you're a member of Suna's Star Wheel, you'll already have his name up there as well, with the spellings. There are different spellings for his name depending on whether you're using sort of modern English or the older form. So you can do it. Baldur is more modern English. Baldr is older. Candice says thanks, thank you. Makes sense right now. Definitely need to play and replenish. And Diane says thank you. Is there anything I can do to make avoiding being overwhelmed easier? The problem with overwhelm is that we can't avoid it. We can only move through it. That's why it's being able to be present in it without it ruling you is the key. Which is why instead of walking away from the beach, so I was describing it, and saying, "Don't look at the beach, don't look at the beach," you know, or "I'm just going to pick 2 pieces and then I'm going to go away." It's actually saying, allow yourself to be present with that, almost as if it is simply a force of nature. It is simply a storm passing through. It is simply a tide that is moving, and your job is simply to witness it. It's that witnessing piece that's important, and choosing whether you witness it by standing at the edge of the sea and going, "Oh my God, there's so much amber and there's just thorns everywhere, and what do we do?" Or you sit with the fire and you go, "There's amber everywhere and there's thorns everywhere." Yep, still there, still amber, still thorns. Looking again, still amber, still thorns. And it's sometimes recognizing that is the best we can do. There will potentially, why I say potentially, there will come a point at which you might well be ready to say, okay, where's my piece of amber and my thorn, and then go and pick them up and do something with them. But you will make a better choice as to which piece of amber and which thorn you want to tackle and are yours, having sat by the fire and meditated and allowed yourself to be fully present to just how much there is, rather than running about like a headless chicken panicking. You'll be more connected to your truth, when the time comes to tackle some of the things that are causing that overwhelm. I hope that's helpful, Diane. And I think that is it. So thank you so much, everybody. It's been lovely to see you. As I say, I won't be with you next Monday. I am here for the Heart Space this week as normal. I have sent out an email. I'm just saying this because we've got a little bit less admin support than normal. So everyone who is a member of the Inner Circle Heart Space should have received an email 2 weeks ago with the timings of all the classes, because over the summer, just because of childcare and things like that, there are a couple of times when the classes are different, often on a Thursday rather than a Friday, or where we might not be having a hygge session. So please do, if you haven't received the email, please do let me know, because you should have received your email, and please do look in your spam. I will do my absolute best to post as well, to say, oh, you know, the class is starting, but it's just not always happening at the moment. So, and if you're in doubt as to when the class is at the beginning of the week, just post in the group at the beginning of the week and ask, and then I'll know to put something out. So yes, because it's just happens over the summer that those things happen. So I look forward to seeing some of you at the Inner Circle Heart Space class, which we're doing embodiment and meditation with Mir. I look forward to seeing some of you who are doing awakening at the moment at our awakening circle, and I look forward to seeing many of you at Middle Earth readings in 2 weeks' time. Many blessings to you all.